capacities everywhere. It is not doubling world populations that poison and hollow out the world. The majority poor control only a fraction of the Earth's resources. What drives the end game is exponentially multiplying money demand and commodities with ever more wastes. They more than double every decade or few years, but global population rates halve as the damages still escalate. That educated people can go on blinkering out the actual causal mechanism while blaming the majority poor reveals the derangement of this ruling value system. Not even prophets like Chris Hedges decode it. Journalists are trained not to. Not even moral philosophers question the system worshipped, masked as the free market. Freedom means no accountability to human and world life, while competition means competing to externalize all costs onto the lives of citizens and environments. The value driver behind it all is no more questioned than the Almighty. It can do no wrong. But one underlying lockstep of false equations propels this unnamed war on the world through its mutations and metastases. And this is the source code, as I go on to call it. Rationality equals self-maximizing choice. That's just de rigueur. People don't know this outside the academy so much, but Peter certainly knows it, that's what rationality is, self-maximizing choice. You go from there, and then that means always more money for the self is good. So that's the ethic. Equals self-multiplying sequences of ever more money to the top as the ruling growth system. Equals all else is disposable means to this multiplying pathogenic growth. My 15-year study, The Cancer Stage of Capitalism from Crisis to Cure, which I think is posted there, diagnoses this ruling value mechanism as cancerous in principle. It is, in short, a deregulated self-multiplication of transnational money sequences accountable to nothing but their own multiplication with no committed life functions.
This system is behaving very much like a cancer, a carcinogenic circuitry at the social level of life organization. You know, I'm saying this isn't a metaphor. This isn't imagery. The image is good, but it's much deeper than that. So it isn't as if I'm having an organic metaphor that some people might understand it. Well, I'm seeing society as an organism. No, I'm seeing it as a social life organization. That means it isn't determined by genetic circuits. It's determined by ultimately value systems and social value systems, not individual value systems. They're usually derivative from the social value system. Exactly. And then if you have, at the social level of life organization, if you have a reproduction circuit that's growing, and it's growing exponentially, once you see exponential growth, you see carcinogenic possibility. There's something gone wrong. And if you see that growth, and of course what it is, you know, in place of what we call the cancer sequence, and what it always does is reproduce itself, really the not-self of the body. It reproduces cancer cells, which are deformed and don't have any committed function to the life host. And that's the real key. There's no committed function to the life host. Now these money sequences, these private money sequences, seek only, like a cancer, they seek only to multiply themselves without inhibition, and they have no committed function to the life host. Well, of course, that ends up in disaster, and that's what happens at the bodily level, and that's what happens at the social level. We have not been able to impose any committed function to life host requirements of life. For example, say with the climate destabilization, that we reduce our carbon. You know, it does. You know, they'll just turn it into another money sequencing to turn into more money without inhibition. And the key is not only that it doesn't have any committed function to the life host. It isn't recognized by the surrounding community. Now, in the body level, the surrounding cell community, you know, it's cells, and they recognize. I mean, it's really quite a remarkable thing the way we all have cancer going on in our bodies all the time. There are cancers there, but the social immune system is able to recognize the cancer. And that's the big problem, is not only that you have a cancer growing and multiplying without committed function, but you also have no recognition at the surrounding life level of what has gone wrong. These cancer cells, which is just money sequencing becoming more private money without limit until it dominates everything, there's no recognition of it. And of course what's happened there is that the corporate mass media are in fact part of the cancer. And of course Wall Street is at the very center of the propagation of the cancer. And they are not going to allow any recognition. It's inconceivable to them. They're behaving like a cancer, but it's inconceivable to them that they could possibly recognize this. And so it isn't recognized by the surrounding social immune system. Now, our social immune system at the social level of life organization isn't, I could go into the mechanics that go on at the bodily level. It's really quite amazing. What happens is that you have macrophage cells that recognize that there's something wrong, and they, so to speak, and they tear the genetic marker off the cell, the rogue cell, and they display it to the surrounding cell community, and then there's a response, a biochemical response that triggers into action precisely the antibody, precisely the action of the body to get rid of those cells. And
right.
Those are called T cells from the thymus gland. One could go through it, how it's just really quite miraculous how this happens. But the key when it happens is that you recognize that it is a cancer. And I've had cancer myself, and that was the most difficult thing was getting the body to recognize the